welcome back. We're so excited to be here. Today we really wanted to focus on the aspect of gratitude. I am a firm believer that when you become grateful for the little things in your life, that's when the big things happen, right? You can't want to have all these big things happen in your life when you don't have the aspect of gratitude. And it became really interesting to me of how I got introduced to gratitude. So I think I talked about on the last episode when I was let go from the hair care company. And for me at that point in my life, I had a 6-month-old at home and my identity was my job. If I had a good job, I was a good person. That was my whole identity, my title that kind of came along with that. So all of a sudden when I was let go for having my son, not being there where the woman wanted me to be, I had to kind of figure out who I was. And my girlfriend at the time had signed us up for this course. I don't know if anybody remembers the Learning Annex from years ago. They'd be these little courses. And she said, we're going to go hear this woman talk about gratitude. And I thought, really? I've just lost my job. I have no gratitude.
You're like, that's not the vibe,
I am
lady.
miserable. This is like the worst night of my life. So
You're like, what are you talking about?
We walk into this room and there's 4 of us. Now I'm really mad because I've wasted an evening and in walks this woman. And
There was only 4 of you in
4 of us. And then this woman
wow.
walks in and I'm thinking,
Okay.
I'm grateful. In walks Sarah Van Bretnack. On Monday, she'd been on the Oprah show and her book shot to the New York Times bestsellers list by the time we were there. And it was called Simple Abundance. And the whole premise around Simple Abundance was that if you write down 5 things every day that you're grateful for and think about it, the bigger things in your life will come. And I still have the book from that evening. And she wrote in my book and she said, learn to become grateful. Big things are going to come. And at that point, I was obviously unemployed. I would drive past my workplace every day. And my husband, I can remember saying at the time, why don't you just go work for them? And I'm like, I'm not working for them. I worked for Lancome. I'm not working for them. And I dropped a resume off. And lo and behold, I started writing every day 5 things I was grateful for. And I can remember starting to write things like, I'm grateful for, I'm a good mom. I'm grateful that I'm a good cook. I was not a good cook. I mean, I was lying through my teeth about everything, right?
She is now, by the way.
Now I am.
She's a very good cook.
I know. But
Superstar
as
in the
I
kitchen.
started to go on, it became, I'm grateful for the written word because it frees my soul. And it started to become more focused and became more grateful. Well, sure enough, I had an interview at the company that I just retired from. I had 22 interviews and gratitude became the singular pillar in my life where I would always write down 5 things every single day that I was grateful for. And it really became important to me because you can watch people in life that are miserable. It's because they're not grateful. We have so much to be grateful. We grateful that we're born in Canada. Just to be born in this country, we're already 10 steps ahead of other people that aren't born here. So I really think that no matter what you're going through, you have to find the gratitude and you have to be grateful for those things. And sometimes you have to write them down. And sometimes you have to write them down so you remember in those moments all the things that we have. So gratitude is a singular thing that I live my life by. I have book upon book of where I've written the 5 things I'm grateful for. And, hopefully Darius, my granddaughter, one day will look at those and go, that's really cool. And that's something that I've learned, that no matter what level you are in business, no matter what level you are in life, you better find gratitude and you better look at what you're grateful for. So I'm curious from you guys, has gratitude, Marcia, impacted your life? And is it something that you've taught your kids? Is it something that you think about on an ongoing basis?
Well, I really admire you for the discipline to do the writing because I practice gratitude, but not to that extent that I sit and I write it. And I'm not a written word person. And maybe that's an excuse. I think you've inspired me just to try that. Because I'll start it and then I'll forget where the book is, or I'll,
Do it on your phone.
really?
Then you know.
Is there a place
Daily.
for
In
that?
your notes.
Oh, yeah, in your notes.
In notes?
Yeah, notes.
That's
or
where I
there's
store
apps for
recipes.
that
Oh,
now. Yeah.
really? Okay.
There's probably an app now you can get.
There's an app for that, right?
Okay. But I really, really do admire that. How I practice it is in moments of calm or moments of quiet. I'm a very early riser. I've always been a member of the 5 o'clock club. I learned how to do that, which I don't know It might
Can you
come up
talk
later,
about the
but-
5 o'clock
Yeah,
club?
the
Yes,
five
I was
o'clock-
gonna
Because I think
say,
it's a really important
Yeah, we got to
piece.
give the people context on that because
Yeah.
it's good. It's a good. It's
a
actually a
good
good club.
thing.
It's a good
It's
club.
a great club.
Yes.
So if you get up at 5 o'clock every morning and you do that 7 days a week, you just now are working in an 8-day week.
Mhm.
Because the rest
Yeah,
of the world generally isn't, your alarm might ring at 6:30, but you're on the, you're in traffic, whatever, here in the Toronto area. I don't know,
Mhm.
but you spend a lot of time doing that. But you've added that extra time. So that's your quiet time. That's your time. I drink my coffee. I think about how great my life is. I'm grateful for the children, the grandchildren, just even my lifestyle. So that's a huge time, and especially for women, because I remember when I had these 3 little kids under the age of 3, if you get out of bed when they wake up,
Ugh.
yeah, well, then wait till they're 6 or wait till they're 10 and you are getting out of bed with them and they're tired and they're grumpy and they didn't do their homework. And, we had 2 daughters and a son and he was the baby of the family, but just to bug his sisters, he'd spend half an hour in the shower. They'd be screaming and yelling. Well, if you're getting up with them, that's just chaos in the household. So if you get up at 5, and I don't even say you have to be at 5. Get up a half an hour before the rest of the family. That's your quiet time. That's your coffee time. That's your gratitude time. That's when you ground yourself. At least that's what I found. That's when I ground myself. What is my day going to look like? The sun is usually rising. It's just a wonderful time of the day. And the rest of the world is all asleep at 5 o'clock. So it really gives you that sense of, I've got to jump on the rest of the world. I feel like I have a jump and a head start on my life.
I agree.
Well,
with
and
that.
I think too about what are you teaching your kids? I mean, you can
yes.
wake up in the morning and if your house is pure chaos,
Oh.
those kids are going to school in pure chaos.
Chaos.
They're going to
Anxious.
school stressed
Yeah.
out. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to have people laugh at me and say, I'm not joining that club. But I also have a saying, you need to go to bed in the same day.
That's
Yes.
right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Staying up till 2 a.m. does not serve
No, that
anybody.
That doesn't serve
But
anybody.
and we as women, we can talk from menopause to perimenopause.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
your sleep,
Yeah.
and sleep is critical in order to function as a leader, as a mom, as a wife.
Yeah.
So the 5 o'clock club, I agree with you. You don't have to start at 5.
No.
But can you get up 15, 20
That's
minutes?
right.
And
That's
don't
right.
just lay there in bed and pick up your phone. That's the worst thing you can do, right?
And that also is a discipline too. Like we're so connected to these phones that I now in that first half hour, I don't touch it.
Right.
It's like it's there. I leave it plugged in, whatever. My husband is really bad for it. He's like, "Do you want your phone?" I'm like, "No." 6 months of the year we live really outdoors at camp. So I'm sitting outside. We've got all these different kind of birds and animals and whatever.
You
just
are in the
listening.
wilderness.
We're in the wilderness. I mean, if you're connected to that phone, you're missing so much of what we're grateful for. Like you said, grateful to be in this country and grateful for, there's something I've often used in helping people that feel like they're, stuck or can't move forward. And I try to help my grandchildren with this too. It's like, if you're not getting what you want, are you grateful for what you already have?
Yes.
And the analogy that I use, and whether you believe it's God or the universe, whatever your belief is, I always think God's looking down, like, if you're not happy with what you've already got, why should I give you more?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Why should you have more? If you're not grateful that you have a job, maybe it's a stretch to pay your bills, but how many people don't have jobs
It's so true.
that could be losing their home? You have a job, you have a loving family, you have a support system, whatever small thing you can have. Don't wish you had more until you're grateful for what you already have. And I think that's hugely
And I think
important.
the universe won't give you more.
No.
No.
It's not going to
It
give you
won't.
more if you're not ready. I think you have to.
Yeah.
I just think people miss out on the importance of gratitude. It's so important to be grateful.
Look at the job you ended up getting.
Yeah, because I got
you-
let go.
Because you then were grateful for what you
Yes.
did have. You had a loving husband, you had a beautiful child, you were able to apply just so many things in your life that you could have been grateful for at that time. And then all of a sudden, where you're supposed to be will appear.
Yes.
The clarity piece.
There you go.
I feel like
Yeah.
gratitude gives you clarity.
Yeah.
Ah, that's
Well, how many times do
interesting.
we hear a young person, and I hear this all the time, well, I'm not getting the promotions I deserve, and
Yes.
but
Mm-hmm.
but you're not grateful for the lessons you're being taught. You
That's
will
it.
get those promotions,
Absolutely.
but I think you have to
Yeah. And
get to be
yeah, I
grateful.
think gratitude gives you clarity on the things that you actually prioritize, the things that you actually value. And my practice is I always say, I'm so happy and grateful for. And I actually write down maybe what my ambition is, what I want to do. But I really focus on the words so happy and grateful. And usually I end up writing 2 or 5 pages
Yeah.
almost of what those things are. Because I think about the things that I have, and then I think about the things that I want. And I speak it almost into existence in that way on paper. And I have one like notebook just for that actual practice. And that's how I practice gratitude personally. But it has always
And when you're
given me
having a bad
clarity.
day, you can go back to that
Oh.
book and have a great look at it and
Yeah.
go, wow.
And I can see and it's actually funny because when there was changes within the organization we used to work in, it's interesting because when the roles changed and I started reporting to you directly, I was actually in most ways, I was practicing gratitude in that moment, wanting to be in your space and wanting to learn from you. And I remember writing that down
Aw.
as something that I wanted to happen in my career because I knew that you were going to teach me what I needed for the next step. And
Yeah.
that's what I kind of noticed from my practice is that it's gotten me clear. It's gotten me straight into my priorities. And it's really kind of kept me, how do I say, like really focused on my values and what is going to be of value to me.
Because gratitude controls
Yeah.
your attitude.
Yes.
And I think we all know
Mhm.
that in order to be successful, we have to have
Mm-hmm.
a good attitude,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yes. Yeah.
Good, bad, ugly. You have to have a good attitude in order to focus, in order to handle the things that come forward. So if you don't have any gratitude, you're never going to develop that attitude that's going to push you forward
Yeah.
or get you through those tough times. It's not about getting through the easy days. It's
Oh,
how
that's
do you
easy.
get through the tough times? When
That's right.
when life hits us or there's illness that happens in your family. The gratitude helps you to remember, it could be worse. I could be having to pay for my health care. I don't have to pay. I live in Canada. We're going to get through this. Gratitude is just such a huge component.
Yeah.
of it.
And I think it's interesting because we've worked with enough people to know you can spot it a mile away when somebody is not clear, not grateful, doesn't value the things that they should be valuing, right? And that's why they are stuck and they're complaining of what we're talking about. It's like that's the side effect from not honoring yourself and actually sitting with yourself and being patient enough with yourself to then do this practice that is going to fill your cup so that you can in order to fill other people's cups.
And I think Sarah, I can remember saying the practice of writing it down made you focus.
Yes.
And, and I think too, if you get up at 5 o'clock and you want to sit and think about it, I tended to do it at the end of the day, but that gave you even 5 minutes. It made me go, hey, what was great about today?
Yes.
What was a great thing that I'm really grateful for about today? And it just helped me to move forward.
And it's so easy now to do it. Like there's almost no excuse not to practice any type of gratitude, self-awareness, mindfulness practice. Like to me, there's no excuse. You can buy a self-guided journal, meditation, whatever, gratitude journal on Amazon for like what, 10 or $15. Like there's no excuse anymore. Not
can go to the dollar
invest in
store
yourself.
and
Giant
It's like
tiger.
giant
If you're in
tiger.
Canada, giant tiger. Giant tiger. We love giant tiger.
We love giant tiger.
We love giant tiger. But to me, it's just like there's no excuse.
No.
Like you can do it. And it doesn't have to be, I think a lot of people and women specifically, they think it has to be this, like, I gotta light a candle, I gotta be in the vibes. Like I gotta do all this stuff. And it's like, no, you don't need all that shit.
No.
Like you
it's
just
simple.
that's it. Like just sit down, put pen to paper, or just sit with yourself for 5 minutes, close your eyes, and just breathe. Like actually breathe.
And I think about so many women that I've met through the years and, you don't understand, I'm so busy. And, don't talk to me about busy because,
right.
I mean, you guys know I used to do like 52 flights a year. It was insane.
Yep.
But if you don't make the time for yourself, if you don't take that time, it's not going to happen. And
Agreed.
you have to take that moment in time for yourself. That's why we believe in the 5 o'clock club, right?
Yeah.
To this day, I do Pilates 3 times a week. I tend to do it at 7 a.m. because I take the earliest class I can get up. That peacefulness at 5 in the morning is everything
huge.
to me.
It
everything.
Sets your day. And, what, again, probably the most important work anybody can do, doesn't matter if you're male or female, is the work you do on yourself.
Yes.
Because when you're doing that self-improvement or that self-analysis, be willing to look at all the ugly parts as well, that changes what you project into the world, which that impacts, in my case, it's children, it's grandchildren, it's the community. With you, because I know I have a sister who's had no children, the community you build when you don't have children is amazing. With the friends that you have, the extended family that you have, we were talking about nieces and nephews or your friends' children. It's huge, the impact that you can have on those people if you practice gratitude, working on yourself, changing yourself. One of the things that really jumped out to me when I was thinking about this was there was a point in my business where I had to inspire a whole lot of women to reach their goals, to be able to reach mine. And it wasn't working. And I was very frustrated and I was really angry because I thought I should have been in that position before and I've worked so hard and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when I sat down and listened to what my inner voice was saying, it was all about me and I. It's like, why have I not reached that point? I'm doing all this work and I forgot about the other people. And the minute I went, you know what? It doesn't matter if I reach this goal or not. I have people in my organization who want things. And when I started being grateful for having them in my life, and helping to focus on what did they want to get, within 3 months, I'd reached my goal.
Oh, absolutely.
So, it's, again, we're back to God isn't going to give you what you want unless you're grateful for what you already have. And so people that kind of complain about their situation, they're not practicing gratitude because there's so much to be
and when you see a woman who comes to you and her life is kind of chaotic and she's not getting what she wants, it's because you have to develop some form of discipline, whether you like it or not. I mean, chaos. This is why
a whole different
that's
topic.
a whole different
we could
topic,
go down
right?
a rabbit hole on that, the discipline factor.
But that's
so
where
true.
the gratitude kind of causes you to stop and to think about it. But chaos creates a whole lot of things. I mean, think about it. If you wake up in that morning and you're running around, you're trying to get the kids' lunches ready. It's not. I always remember getting up at 5, and our life being very, very peaceful in the morning. It was a nice, peaceful morning for Darius to get to school, for me to get to work, for me to take my time, and that created a good day. And then that gratitude, starts to go over into your life. But I think for women that may be struggling with where they are, you really do need to sit down and go, okay, what's great about my life right now? What can I learn from it? What am I bringing to the current job? And then where are my opportunities? But gratefulness is key.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's huge.
And I think, too, the other thing I say to women, it's when they say, Rachelle, I don't have time for them. Do it right before you go to bed. What a great practice to do right before you go to bed. Right? If you're the last person to go to bed, at least you're doing it before you go to bed.
But if we don't put ourselves first, we cannot be a good wife, a good mom, and a good leader. And I think women have to learn. Yes, I gave everything up for my child. I would give my life up for him, but I also had to learn how to protect myself. And that's, I think, one of the keys in success in business and success in your life is when you learn to put the things that you need first. And that is, how do you wake up in the morning and how are you feeling?
Oh, yeah.
And, the kids are going to grow up and leave home.
They
and
eventually.
teenagers, they're like, I don't like you anymore. And they're trying to create who they are. I mean, that can be a very stressful time, but that's their job. You know, I see that with some of my younger grandchildren and the parents. It's like, that's not an easy time. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But that's the child's job.
That's it.
You know, they're trying to figure out who they are, and they don't want to be connected to that parent.
Well, no, I think what as you were talking about that, what struck me was when we were talking about your grandson this Christmas, who brought back to you a memory that he had and wanted to recreate that. That was a grateful moment that Sam had. That was like, Grandma, can't we do this again? We used to do this. And
so Christmas Eve, our Christmas was a little bit different this year because, you know, some of our children and their partners were traveling. So Christmas Eve for us was very quiet. We only had the three of our grandsons from the same family. So 3 brothers came to visit us. And Sam, the youngest, was 21 out of that family. It was Christmas Eve and they had just come over and we were having a drink and had some snacks. And he said, Grandma, I really want to go back to church on Christmas Eve. Because we used to live just across the river from a church, and every Christmas Eve when the kids were little, and of course kicking and screaming even as young teenagers, and it's like, we don't want to go to church. It's like, no, we're going to church Christmas Eve. And it was the Christmas story. It was 45 minutes long. They sang all the traditional carols. So now here's the 21-year-old who he has not been to that church for probably 10 years. Grandma, I really want to go back there. Because what it was is an hour in a very chaotic time in our lives, Christmas and all the craziness that goes on. But that was an hour of stillness and calm and quiet. And at the end, we'd all, 200 people would light a candle and sing Silent Night. So again, it's the feeling. Yeah. It's the feeling that he remembers. He may not even remember what the Christmas story is about. As the young man, I don't know what he remembers. But he remembers the feeling.
Right.
And he wants that in the chaos of the world. So that is, again, that little bit of calm and peace where you just, traditions that you've created do eventually come back. And, the other one I was saying at Thanksgiving is we're a family of about 25 people. Now these grandchildren are bringing partners. Our 23-year-old and 25-year-old, because it's buffet where you get your food and you sit down. And I said, Alex and Sam, it was too. I said, go ahead and eat. Oh, no, we can't eat until we say the blessing. And, that's not something we do on a regular basis.
Right.
But they remembered as children because my mother, who played the organ in our church for like 60 years, we said a blessing before every meal with family. Yeah. Wow. So those grandchildren remembered Grandma Grace, and that it didn't feel right until you said grace when you were with a family. Yeah. So those are the moments where you can express gratitude, and it's the feeling that's left with these children that happens when they're young. Those are the traditions that you use.
I think it's not even, yes, it's the lessons for our children and for our husbands and for our family, but it's the lesson for us. And I think if we're teaching ourselves to have that moment of gratitude, I used to always joke when I would teach with the sales force is that, if I waited till my emotion was in the perfect condition in order to go to work, like, as a woman, let's be clear, right? You're getting your periods, or you're in a bad mood, eating everything in sight, then you get your period and you're feeling like crap. And then the week after you're depressed. So I got 1 week a month, right?
1 week a month.
1 week a month to work.
Let's make it
That's
happen.
not going to work.
We got
so
5 days.
I have to go. Yeah. I got to go in for backups. So that's where the gratitude comes in, right? Because you can't, right? You can't wait for the perfect moment to happen. You've got to create those moments, and you have to create that mindset. And that's where gratitude for me became really important. Yes. It's that it's not always going to work out the way I want it to, but when I can stop, pause, and think about it.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I think too, we talk a lot with gratitude, like habit stacking. Like what else can you do when you're practicing gratitude? So,
I love that habit stacking.
Yeah. Like I really like the walk with maybe a guided gratitude practice. Like, and you can find them on, Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your music from.
Explain that more. What?
So I do this more in the summertime or when it's night, and it's more when it's like the plus degrees. I like to do this in Canada, where you're doing something active, or you're doing like, let's say you're cleaning your house, but you're listening to like a meditation, or you're listening to a podcast that's going to, let's say you want to get, 1% smarter that year. So you're listening to certain podcasts on certain niche topics in order to grow like your vocabulary or how you think things, like your perspective, right? So how I like gratitude is to walk, but also have like a gratitude practice or some type of meditative practice as I walk. So it's like you're doing two things at once, right? And you're getting of course, the benefits of getting outside and, being alone as well, enjoying your own company. But also if you're somebody who needs that additional stimulation, or if you want to walk, be mindful, that's a practice I recommend too. I do it myself. That's how I also really
That's
enjoy
great advice.
Yeah.
I get so frustrated when women say to me, "You don't understand, I'm too busy." No.
I
You're
like how
not
the
too busy.
It's
It's defensive, right?
that comes up.
And I
It's
think,
like,
women have to stop and
The
go,
emotion.
no, I have to first of all invest in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to find those. We talked about discipline. I mean, that's a whole other thing we can talk about too. But
that's it.
you have to put yourself first before you can put your kids, your husband, anybody, to make sure that your cup is filled. And that has to be a discipline that you develop. It has to be something, because if not, you can't become a good leader. You can't become clear focused.
Agreed.
I think one of the problems that I had early on was, yes, I was busy. I had these kids. I was trying to, start my own business. We only had one vehicle. Life was busy. Life was chaotic. I was up at 5 and in bed at 11 or midnight. I didn't quite understand what that term meant, taking care of myself. And, it's simple things like, it doesn't even have to cost a lot of money.
Right.
I was going to say, you know what, go treat yourself to a manicure. You would, let your husband have a pedicure beside you and you have a pedicure, whatever. But if you don't have the money for that, it's simple things like, I'm going to go for a walk without the kids, or I'm going to lock the bathroom door. I'm going to light a candle and have a glass of wine, have a glass of water, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to cost money. Those are the small things that we mean by self-care, taking care of yourself, spending that moment with yourself, reading a good book. It doesn't have to be anything big. That's not what we mean. It's like, focus on yourself. Just on yourself.
But that's the thing. Like sometimes women, we want to make things bigger than what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be simple. And the more simple you can keep it, the better it's going to be to even build the habit. Because it takes 62 days now to build a habit.
Yes.
So it's not something easy, but once you actually do it, and again, it's like my question is when people get their back up and are like, oh, I don't have time. Okay, well, where's that coming from?
Where is your time going?
That's it. And what does time mean to you?
You don't value your own time.
That's
and
it.
The other thing that is amazing me is how many women refuse to sit in silence.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is key. When you can learn to sit in silence, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, think about the things you're grateful for. You start to learn who you are.
Yes.
You start to learn where your weaknesses are, where your strengths are. I remember when somebody told me to start meditation, and I'm an overachiever, and I started, put my clock for 15 minutes. Well, my God, I didn't last a minute. I mean, you're supposed to start with a minute, then but 2 minutes. But even just sitting in silence is so key, because you just let that at the 5 o'clock and you learn to sit in that silence, and you appreciate it, and then you're ready to start. So learn to become comfortable in your own skin and sitting in that silence, I think is key.
I was going to say to both of you, do you feel like your best thinking or best decisions come from that time in the morning? I don't, because I personally feel like I call it downloads. I get the best downloads in the morning.
Let's be clear. I used to be.
I get the best downloads.
I used to be a reactionary leader, and now, as you've seen me as a leader, that I'm very calm and I don't get too upset. But I used to react. So my response would be react to that email, react and go into the office. I learned that I needed 24 hours.
Okay. Yep.
I needed to think about it. I needed to process it. And that would happen in those private times.
Yeah, that's emotional intelligence.
Yep.
And we are going to teach a class on emotional intelligence
We are.
because we have 400 immediate physical responses.
Yes.
It's crazy,
And
right?
when
Like,
you learn and mature with emotional intelligence, it's you can't let that happen. You have to wait until the rational response is. So that's, we've all been there. And that's a learned skill when you're aware of the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, there's very
yeah.
little now that could get me out of my mood, or it can upset me so much that you know, what did Maya Angelou say, or something, that the sign of an evolved woman is, how do you handle tangled Christmas lights,
Oh, yes.
lost luggage,
oh yeah.
and I think there's a third one. I
something
can't
else
quite think about it, but
Yeah.
it's so true. How do you handle those moments? You know, if
Yeah.
you lose your luggage, or you
Yeah.
know, you're losing your mind. I mean, it is so much how your staff sees you, how your family sees you, how people react to you in those moments. Those are the biggest learning lessons, and help you to evolve.
And you know, as women, and we have like 3 granddaughters, they're watching.
Yes.
Your children are watching you. That's how they become little mini me's. So what are you teaching them? And it's not, and one of my other mentors that's sitting in one of her classes, that words that have echoed with me, stayed with me, is not what's taught, it's what's caught.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You don't and especially with our children and people in our community, you don't have to say a lot. It's like, who are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing in your life? You know, your kids notice that you're practicing gratitude.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, your neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it is a huge, huge part of.
I think what's interesting is that, you know, as we've been talking about it, just sitting here, it just connects all the points to, you know, people talk about how to be balanced or how to have more harmony in their life. And what's interesting is everything we're talking about goes back to gratitude and the practice you have with yourself, your own physical self.
Yes.
Right. And, you know, we're talking about home improvement, but home improvement starts at home.
Yeah.
Which is who you are as a person, who we are as women, right? The human experience. So it's really interesting how it's all literally connected in a circle. Like I'm putting, like I see a circle and dots all around it, and it's everything we literally talked about. But the middle always, it starts with gratitude.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a great way to end.
Well, and you've inspired me. I'm getting a book, and I'm not going to lose it. And I'm going to start writing. I am.
Go to Giant Tiger. You're going to go to Giant Tiger, get your $2.
You're not going to use your notes on your
journal.
phone, or find the app, or
why
is
not?
that just
We'll
one
get you
more
an app,
thing?
Marcia. We'll get you an app.
Get me an app.
We'll get you an app. Don't
You
worry, we
can
got
tell I like physical things.
Well, you know, I
That's
remember
good.
that was what Sarah said to me 30 years ago when I was introduced to her, and she said, you know, I was unemployed at the time. I was freaking out. I had a 6-month-old at home. I couldn't be grateful for anything. And she said, you go home tonight and you get yourself a beautiful journal and a pen, and you start to write. And that's where it started. And it's something that anybody who's ever known me in leadership is something I believe in.
Yes.
And I think, you know, we're so grateful for this. We're so grateful for this opportunity. We're grateful that so many people are joining us on this community journey, and we're grateful. And
very
we just
grateful.
encourage everybody to develop that. So
Yeah.
thanks,
right.
guys. That was great. I'm
Thanks,
grateful.
Lynda. Thanks,
Woo!
Rachelle.
That's right.
Good job.